Hey guys, I'm here this morning with Anav Avni. How are you doing? How are you doing, Anav?
Hi, doing fabulously. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's the beginning of the new year. The conversation today that we're going to have is about the stories and self concepts that people tell themselves and how to improve those stories or self concepts.
Right. So basically, what I do when I speak with my clients is I pay attention to the stories that they're not telling me, the things that come out from between the lines,
Mm,
and it helps me to what I am able to do then is identify their beliefs, what they really believe is going on behind the word that they're actually using. And that helps me to identify maybe strategies that they are using to basically make sure that they never get what they want to get.
uh,
And
okay. So in a way that the stories that they're telling themselves are blocking them from getting what they want.
exactly.
Mm.
And you'd be surprised how we all do that. We really want something, and yet we work really, really hard on not allowing ourselves to get there.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
and so when I talk with my clients, I am able to listen to that, to the story that they don't realize that they tell themselves, and I hold a mirror and I ask questions and I help them to see, to understand. We put it on the table so that they can really see it in front of them what they're doing in order to make themselves not get what they want. And when it's on the table, when it's in front of their eyes, then I will say, "Ah, I get it," and that's when they start. They're able to change.
Awesome. I can imagine it could be so freeing, that moment of like freeing yourself from some sort of limiting belief that you had in yourself. Like I know I can think of times in my life where I've realized like why am I not doing this, or like why am I why am I holding myself back here, and it's just like there's no reason at all, and it's really freeing to have that moment of realization.
Hmm. It is quite profound to realize that actually there is something there that you are actually physically doing to make sure that you don't get there.
Yeah.
And then it's
What's
questions, right? It's about what is it that you are protecting. Uh,
mm,
and when we talk about protection, everything is there. And
okay. So what is it that people are tend to be protecting?
people protect, it's a belief that they usually have about themselves. That it's an identity level. You know, if I do this, then that will happen. And so if you then are threatening this, whatever that this may be, I won't know who I am anymore.
Okay.
Some I'll give you an example. I had one client. She wanted to start her own business, right? And she was talking about it the whole time. That's what I want to do. And we could see, she was really good. She's talented, experienced. She's got really good proof that sales and stuff that can really help her in her business and stuff. And yet, something was stopping her. And we started unearthing what is it.
Hmm.
And in the end, it turned out that what she was protecting was her time with her son. In her mind, she said, "Oh, if I start this new business, I will have to leave the house, not be with my son. I will miss out on our connection." And
Okay.
she unknowingly she was protecting that.
But it really was irrational because she could work on her own business and spend time with her son as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when she recognized that this was what she was protecting, she was
Uh,
able to make some rational decisions of
I
how
see.
to actually
Okay.
go about it.
Interesting. And I bet that's really common, is like you think that doing going after a goal is going to interfere with like it makes some sacrifice in some other area, but really it ends up being the case that you're not making a sacrifice. And once you become aware of that, once you become aware of like what you're protecting, then you can realize, like, think about it more rationally.
I think it's the one thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of our um, a lot of our beliefs and the reason why we do things when we are adults come from a time when we were, little kids, and
Okay.
we were missing the rationale, the part of our brain that is dealing with making decisions and explanations of why things are happening is not developed. And until the age of 9 or something. What happens is that we're little kids, we suffer some pain or discomfort, or we don't understand what is going on, and we make up a coping mechanism.
Hmm.
And we go through life using the same coping mechanism that we made up at a time that we had no idea what
Right.
is going on. We
Right.
just created something that meant that if we do this, we have a little bit less pain.
Right. Right.
So-
It is
so
carried over from when we were kids, so it's not really like useful for us now as a tool. Um,
exactly.
yeah.
And the point is that when people are now, when they see it, when they reconnect with the reasoning of why they're doing something, they're like, yeah, that is so not helpful anymore. And then the
Mm,
question is, yeah, let it go. If it's not helping anymore, get rid of it.
for sure. What are some other common self narratives that your clients tell themselves, if you were to generalize, or without using any names, of course? Like what are some examples? Some more examples.
People. I have one example of a client that somehow made a connection between something that he's done and the death of his grandmother.
Oh wow.
And that was an interesting example. I'm not sure if it's exactly what you had in mind,
Right.
um, but yeah. So you could see that every time that he was talking about that time, how it was really heavy for him, and he made this really strong connection. And then we were able to again put it on the table in front of him, and he was able to see that yes, the grandmother may have passed away very soon after the conversation, but it really had nothing to do with him.
Mm,
And that happened to him in a previous, early on in life. So the connection was quite strong, and he was able to let go of that. And
he thought he was responsible for his grandma's death.
yeah, yeah,
Mm.
he really he carried it for a long time.
Oh
and
wow.
and after we spoke, then he was able to, he realized he wasn't, the guilt shifted basically. So
It sounds like everyone's, I mean, it's hard to generalize these narratives because everyone's narrative and their self-concept is different. So it's like it's just really it's like reading a novel, it's like you uncover whatever is in there is really specific to the person, the characters that are being discussed. um and everyone's story is different.
absolutely.
I know that you also use, evolutionary coaching, values-based coaching to as a tool, to support your work. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Values for me is a really, I really believe in values. I believe that that most of the suffering that we go through in life happens when we move away from our core values.
Hmm.
It's like waking up one day and losing your compass and thinking, well, where the heck is north? I have no
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah.
And when you don't have this compass, when you don't know what are your values, anything can happen, and it's like, like a driftwood, really.
Right.
With values-based coaching, what I do is I use a tool that is come from Barrett Values Assessments or Center, and it's a really cool tool that I've only been introduced to recently, but it's married really well into my walk or belief in values. So with this tool, I can get people to choose 10 values from a list of about 60 of values that resonates with them. And the work that we then do is we are able to identify if the values that the person is going through in life, if it's come from fear and unmet needs, or from a place of growth and empowerment.
uh
So this is really interesting because a lot of us, we go about life being quite terrified of different things. And when we are concentrating on doing something from a fear-based belief, we're not doing it. We get stuck. When we look at the same thing from our values and from our growth values, it's like releasing everything. All of a sudden, we're not clenched anymore. We're not worried. We're not terrified of things. I'll
mm,
give you an example. I had one client that she's like a meditation teacher, and she was thinking that she wants to put herself out there a little bit more. And what she was describing was very much, she was really scared of putting herself out there because she was really scared that she wasn't good enough.
Okay.
So every time when she wanted to do something, she was like, oh, but I'm not good enough, so I can't do it. So maybe I'll do this. No, I'm not good enough, so I'm not doing it. So there was this battle, internal battle of what I should do.
Right.
And when we identified her values, one of her core values was personal development.
Mm-hmm.
And when she thought about personal development, there was no room for I'm not good enough, because all of a sudden the focus was, instead of on the negative and the scary, it was about what do I do to get my professional development.
Right, right, right.
Right.
Right. It
So
was all about growth instead of like thinking in a fear-based thing. I really like what you said about confusing unmet needs with values. I never heard that before, and I think that's actually really profound in terms of like when we're doing the value selection thing. We might think that our value is whatever, something, but really it might be an unmet need that we haven't that we're just under. We have a scarcity kind of approach to something that we haven't fulfilled yet. But that's a really, really interesting way to look at.
evolutionary coaching, the whole idea there is that we have two types of needs. We have the needs of the ego and the needs of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
So um, so when we identify the needs, if they go to the ego needs, this is the basic needs, the ones that that says I have enough, I am loved enough, and I am acknowledged and recognized enough. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have that, then it's I don't have enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved enough. And if we're going through life with this fear being very prominent, it means that it takes all of its negative energy that we are carrying with us, and we put all of our focus there, meaning we are not able to then grow and get into our meaning and purpose in life that this is the soul needs.
Right, right. And obviously, of course, that's one of the biggest problem is too many people thinking in terms of, like what they're lacking, and thinking small about things, about just their kind of ego, rather than thinking in terms of abundance and growth and all that good stuff.
It's really easy to do though, right? Because when you're facing with your basic needs, what you don't have, then it's kind of you can make allowances to say, okay, I understand why I'm doing this, but it is so much more helpful and really profound to realize that you can go through life through using your growth values,
Yeah,
one that
right.
inspire you to connect with the person that you really are. So there is it's very easy to go through life going through life like from a clenched point of view,
Mhm.
but it's amazing when you are able to identify that you have values that would actually open up everything and allow you to get abundance back into your life.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It reminds me of Abraham Maslow had this needs theory, and it was like you have B needs and A needs. I think that's what he called it. But you have deficiency needs, and then you have abundance needs, and that went along with his whole self-actualization theory.
Mm.
Um, but it seems like very tied into what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the evolutionary coaching has some base in that, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so if someone wants to get in touch with you about evolutionary coaching and working with you one on one, how can they do that?
My easier name to go by is Untangled Coaching. Slightly easier to pronounce than Enav. I totally get that. I am on all major social media platforms, and I'd love to get emails from people telling me whatever, asking questions or yeah, wanted to get in touch. So my email, enav@untangledcoaching.com.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely include that link below this video. Anything else you wanted to leave with us? Any other kind of notes you wanted to share? Any points? Any other concluding points?
Yes, coaching. I realized that a lot of people are scared of coaching. They think it's very much like therapy, and it will take forever, and we will go around and around and around in circles of around the issues that they're facing. Coaching is really fascinating because it takes the person as a whole, past, future, and definitely present.
Hmm.
It looks at what you want to get and what is stopping you, the limiting beliefs that you've managed to accumulate along the lines, and it's like really taking where you are and all your blocks and things that you don't do, and is making it into a possibility. And it's a beautiful gift that you can give yourself.
Yeah, totally. Coaching is the best, honestly. Like if you haven't worked with a coach, work with a coach. Like it can be so helpful. I
Mm,
strongly encourage you to do that. So thanks so much, Ainav. I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to talking with you more.
wonderful. Thank you so much.